Once upon a time in a small village called Osha in the western part of Nigeria, there lived a couple named John and Mary. They were a loving pair, but their hearts ached for a child. For 3 long years, they prayed and hoped for a little one to bless their home. Finally, after much anticipation, their prayers were answered. God smiled upon them and blessed them with a beautiful baby girl whom they named Emily. However, instead of rejoicing, John and Mary's faces were clouded with sadness. They were unhappy because their newborn was a girl. In their minds, they believed that only a bouncing baby boy could bring them true happiness and prosperity. In their village, there was an age-old belief that boys were more valuable than girls. Boys were seen as the ones who would carry on the family name, inherit the land, and uphold the family honor. Girls, on the other hand, were often considered to be burdens destined to serve their future husbands or become prostitutes. Instead of celebrating the arrival of their darling daughter, John and Mary feared and worried about her future. They feared that Emily would never be able to fulfill their dream of having a strong and successful son. But little did they know, Emily was destined for greatness. Her parents didn't show her love, attention, or care. Mary got pregnant after a year, and luckily they ended up having twin boys. They were really excited and happy. They named them Oliver and Tom, and they loved them a lot. They began treating their daughter Emily very poorly. They didn't give her love, attention, or care. Emily felt left out and sad. She wondered if her parents were really hers because they treated her differently from her friends' parents who treated them nicely. She asked, "Why do my parents love my brothers more than me?" As Emily grew, she proved to be a bright and spirited child despite her parents' doubts. She excelled in everything she put her mind to. She was quick-witted, kind-hearted, and had a smile that could light up the darkest of days. Despite her parents' reservations, Emily's love for them never wavered. She adored John and Mary with all her heart, even though they couldn't see past their own biases and beliefs. One day, as Emily was playing near the village stream, she stumbled upon an old woman sitting by the water's edge. Emily's heart sank as she realized she'd been handed over by her own father. Nights turned into a blur of tears as she felt trapped with no way out. Looking at herself in the mirror, she muttered, "Is this how my life's going to sour, selling my precious body like a discount deal? Oh God, please help me." Madame Shea wasted no time in putting Emily to work, assigning her tasks that made her skin crawl. Emily felt trapped like a bird with clipped wings, unable to fly free. Night after night, Emily lay awake in her cold, dimly lit room, the weight of her situation pressing down on her like a suffocating blanket. She longed for escape, for a way out of the nightmare her life had become. But amidst the darkness, a tiny spark of hope flickered within her heart. She prayed to the heavens above, begging for deliverance from the horrors she faced. "Oh God, please help me," she whispered into the stillness of the night. "I cannot bear this burden alone. Show me the way to freedom, and I will follow wherever it may lead." Weeks passed, but Emily stayed strong. Even though she faced cruelty, she held on to hope tightly, not letting it fade away. But little did she know, her prayers were about to be answered in the most unexpected of ways. William and Sarah had hoped for a bright future for their sons, Oliver and Tom, but things didn't turn out as they wished. Instead of becoming the successful men they dreamed of, their sons got lost in addiction and sadness, like shadows fading away in the dark. William and Sarah had worked tirelessly to provide for their sons, sacrificing their own comfort and happiness, even their daughter Emily, in the hopes of securing a brighter future for them. But despite their efforts, Oliver and Tom had strayed from the path of righteousness, succumbing to the temptations that lurked in the shadows of their village. Instead of attending school and focusing on their studies, Oliver and Tom spent their days wandering the streets, their minds clouded by the fog of drug addiction. They were more interested in chasing girls and getting high on drugs and alcohol than in listening to boring lectures. William and Sarah watched helplessly as their sons spiraled further and further into darkness, their hearts heavy with the weight of disappointment and regret. They had hoped for so much more for Oliver and Tom, but now their dreams lay shattered at their feet like shards of broken pottery. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, William and Sarah struggled to come to terms with the harsh reality of their son's downfall. They blamed themselves for their failures, wondering where they had gone wrong in raising them. Even though things were tough and sad, William and Sarah still had a tiny bit of hope in their hearts. They didn't want to give up on their sons. They thought there was still a chance for them to change, even if it was a small chance. And so, with heavy hearts and determined spirits, William and Sarah vowed to do whatever it took to pull their sons back from the brink of destruction, for they knew that as long as there was breath in their bodies, there was still hope for a better tomorrow. One day, Emily went to service one of Madame Shay's clients as usual, but something unexpected happened. The guards who were supposed to be watching outside were fast asleep because they had too much to drink. When Emily saw them sleeping, she thought, "Wow, this is my chance to get away." So she ran and ran until she couldn't run anymore. Suddenly, she accidentally ran into a moving car. The car hit her, and she fell down unconscious. When she regained consciousness, Emily found herself lying in a hospital bed. Her body battered and bruised, but her spirit unbroken. By her side stood a kind-hearted woman named Mrs. Alice, the driver of the car that had struck her. As Emily recounted her harrowing tale to Mrs. Alice, the woman's heart swelled with compassion and outrage. How could a father betray his own flesh and blood in such a manner? Mrs. Alice's maternal instincts kicked in, and she vowed to help Emily in any way she could. "You poor child," Mrs. Alice said, her voice trembling with emotion. "No one deserves to be treated as you have been. After looking for a child for 20 years with my husband, even just one, it's heartbreaking to see someone sell their own daughter. Some people really shouldn't have children at all. But know this, you are not alone anymore. From this day forward, I will be your protector, your guardian angel." Emily's eyes filled with tears of gratitude as she looked into Mrs. Alice's compassionate gaze. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she felt a glimmer of hope flicker within her soul. And so, under Mrs. Alice's loving care, Emily began to heal both physically and emotionally. She found solace in the warmth of Mrs. Alice's embrace, her heart finally finding the love and acceptance it had been yearning for. Together, they embarked on a quest for justice, determined to bring Madame Shay to account for her crimes and put an end to the cycle of suffering she had inflicted upon countless innocent souls. With tears of joy streaming down her cheeks, Emily embraced her newfound parents, Mrs. Alice and Mr. David, with a love that overflowed from the depths of her grateful heart. After years of loneliness and suffering, she had finally found the family she had always longed for. She was adopted by Mrs. Alice and Mr. David. The wealthy couple with hearts as big as their bank accounts welcomed Emily into their home with open arms. They showered her with love, affection, and all the comfort she had been deprived of for so long. Determined to give Emily the bright future she deserved, Mrs. Alice and Mr. David enrolled her in a prestigious school where she excelled in her studies with flying colors. With her passion for justice burning bright, Emily pursued her dreams of becoming a lawyer, a path she had always yearned to walk. As fate would have it, it was at law school where Emily's life took an unexpected turn. She met Michael, a handsome and charming young man with a smile that could light up even the darkest of days. They quickly formed a deep connection, their hearts beating as one in perfect harmony. Michael, or Mike as he was fondly called, was smitten with Emily from the moment he laid eyes on her. He admired her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering determination to overcome the odds stacked against her. In time, their friendship blossomed into something more, and Emily found herself falling head over heels in love with Mike. He was everything she had ever dreamed of: kind, caring, and fiercely loyal. Mike, eager to show Emily how much she meant to him, promised to take her home to meet his family. And so, with butterflies fluttering in her stomach and her heart overflowing with anticipation, Emily eagerly awaited the day she would be introduced to the people who had raised the man she loved. But little did Emily know, her journey was far from over. As she prepared to meet Mike's family, she could never have imagined the secrets that lay hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed. As Emily stepped into Mike's mother's house, she couldn't contain her excitement. Dressed in her finest attire, she felt like a princess stepping into her own fairy tale. But as she laid eyes on Mike's mother, her joy quickly turned to shock and disbelief. It was Mike's mother, Madame Shay, who had moved to a different house, the same woman who had once held her captive in a life of misery and despair. How could this be possible? Had fate played a cruel joke on her once again? When Madame Shay saw Emily, she was shocked. Mike introduced Emily as his fiancée, the girl he loved and wanted to marry. Madame Shay got angry and said, "No way, you're not marrying this girl. Out of all the girls in the world, you chose this one." Mike was puzzled and asked his mother why. Madame Shay insisted that he couldn't marry Emily because she was heartbroken and betrayed. Emily fled from the house, leaving Mike to grapple with the harsh reality of his mother's true nature. Mike followed, asking what was going on. Emily explained that if Madame Shay truly was his mother, they could never be together. Then she left Mike in the dark, not knowing what to do. Later, when Emily and Mike met to discuss what had transpired, Emily poured out her heart, revealing the painful truth of her past. Mike, overcome with sadness and anger, struggled to come to terms with the revelation. Confronting his mother, Mike demanded answers, but Madame Shea remained unrepentant, justifying her actions as a means to provide for him and secure his future. To her, Emily was nothing more than a commodity, a pawn in her twisted game of power and control. Devastated by his mother's callousness, Mike realized that the woman he had loved and admired all his life was nothing more than a stranger wearing a familiar face. With a heavy heart, Emily and Mike parted ways, their love shattered by the cruel hand of fate. As they walked their separate paths, they carried with them the pain of what could have been, their hearts forever scarred by the betrayal of those they had trusted most. As Emily focused on her law career, she poured her heart and soul into every case that came before her. Her determination and dedication paid off, and she eventually rose to the esteemed position of judge, a dream she had held close to her heart since she was a young girl. Her adopted parents, Mrs. Alice and Mr. David, beamed with pride at Emily's success. To see the child they had taken in and loved as their own achieve such greatness filled their hearts with joy and fulfillment. Meanwhile, Madame Shea continued her illicit activities, but this time she was more careful. However, as the saying goes, you can't run from justice forever. Madame Shea found that out the hard way. Eventually, she got caught by the police and had to go to court. She found herself standing before Emily in a court of law, facing the consequences of her despicable actions. The irony of the situation was not lost on Madame Shea. Looking at herself standing before the very girl she had once enslaved, now holding the power to determine her fate, was a moment of poetic justice. With unwavering resolve, Emily passed judgment on Madame Shea, sentencing her to life imprisonment for her crimes. It was a moment that Madame Shea would rue for the rest of her days. Amidst the darkness, a ray of light shone through as Emily and Mike found their way back to each other. Despite the trials and tribulations they had faced, they decided to take their relationship to the next level. In a beautiful ceremony surrounded by their loved ones, Emily and Mike exchanged vows and became husband and wife. Their love had endured the test of time, stronger and more resilient than ever before. As they embarked on the journey of marriage together, they knew that their bond was unbreakable, forged in the fires of adversity and tempered by the trials they had overcome. With a family of their own, beautiful children who brought laughter and joy into their lives, Emily and Mike embraced the future with open arms, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that as long as they had each other they could conquer anything. As William and Sarah reflected on their lives, they couldn't help but feel a pang of regret. Their daughter Emily, whom they had once deemed worthless, had risen to become a respected judge. Meanwhile, their beloved sons, Oliver and Tom, had ended up living a life of crime and sadness. Emily's success served as a stark reminder of the consequences of their actions. The neglect, the rejection, and the belief that a girl was somehow less valuable than a boy. They had failed to see the potential within their own daughter, blinded by societal norms and misguided beliefs. But in the midst of feeling bad and sorry, there was still a little hope. Forgiveness can do amazing things even when things seem really bad. Whether Emily would decide to forgive her parents, only time would show. The tale of William, Sarah, Emily, and Mike is a touching reminder of how love, acceptance, and making things right matter. It shows how strong people can be and how forgiving can change everything. This story also emphasizes the importance of using technology for good. With the rise of tech startups, online education, and digital platforms, Emily's journey to becoming a judge was made easier by access to online legal resources, digital classrooms, and virtual mentorship programs. This advancement in technology played a crucial role in shaping her career and allowed her to bring justice not only to herself but to many others. In today's world, embracing technology can help bridge gaps in education, provide access to information, and empower individuals to achieve their dreams. As Emily's story shows, technology is not just about gadgets and software. It's about creating opportunities, fostering connections, and making a difference in people's lives. Whether it's through e-learning platforms, mobile apps, or social media, the digital revolution has the power to transform lives and bring justice and equality to all corners of the globe. So, as you reflect on Emily's journey, remember the importance of leveraging technology for personal growth and societal change. Share your thoughts in the comments, let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Keep smiling, stay connected, and embrace the power of technology to change the world. See you, and until next story, keep smiling.